Hey everybody, welcome back or welcome to Footy with Friends. I'm Brady Larkin, and it's been a weird weekend. One of the few without Premier League soccer on TV. That means the FA Cup third round is in full swing. These weekends are usually hit or miss. Liverpool took care of business on Friday afternoon. They beat Villa 4-1, and it left a pretty strange taste in the mouth. I mean, Aston Villa had to play their U23 players because they had a huge uptick in COVID cases with the first team. But for me, a win is a win. And if I recall correctly, last year, Villa beat Liverpool 5-0 to knock us out of the League Cup, where Liverpool was the one playing their U23s against Villa's first team. So, again, a win is a win. I guess this makes it all square. So fair enough. One thing I want to share with you all this weekend, I'm going to be doing a live chat on Twitter. So follow along with me. That's at @footy_friends to join the conversation and participate in a live commentary. So this Friday and each Friday, I'll be announcing what the game of the weekend is. So you can plan ahead, you can tune in, and we can watch together. After all, this is Footy with Friends. So I'm looking forward to sharing some friendly banter with you all on Twitter. Again, give me a follow if you haven't already. That's at @footy_friends. On to the main event today. My guest this week is my buddy, Jason Plumhoff. We go back, to our high school days in Maryland. It was great to catch up with him and unpack his experience growing up playing soccer in Germany and later here in the US. There's probably something here for everyone that's aspiring college or professional soccer players, coaches, and definitely the casual fans of the game. Jason played college soccer at Salle University, and he went on to play professionally in the USL and NASL in the States and Canada. This conversation provided a really cool insight into the qualities and the mindset it takes to make it as a pro. I hope you enjoy, and let me know what you think with a review and rating wherever you're listening to this podcast now. So with that, here's me and Jason Plumhoff. You want to talk soccer?
Yeah, we can talk some footy.
I figured we should start with just setting the stage.
Yeah.
Like, what club do you support? Who's your team?
All right. Okay, so as you know, I am an avid Bayern Munich supporter, and
Yes.
Internationally, I also support Germany, but I do root for America. I do see them having a great future with the likes of Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Serginho Dest.
Yeah, they're legit, right?
I mean, they have a lot of players now. It is not a pipe dream anymore. It's starting to really become something.
Yeah. The pundits say this every, 5-10 years. Like, this is the generation for America. But
Right.
this, I feel like, really is.
Yeah,
There's
for
something
sure.
different about this, like, group of young dudes.
Yeah, I think the fact that, like you mentioned, they're young. So in the past, we had Altidore, Dempsey, we had Howard, a bunch of players that went on to play international soccer, European soccer, but they weren't really young. They were in their prime of their careers. When
Yeah.
Dempsey was at Fulham, right? How old was he? 28, 29?
Right.
Right. And we
Brian
have
McBride.
Yeah, and now we have Christian Pulisic wearing the number 10 for Chelsea, and he's barely 20 some years old.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. There's probably more players now that are playing at like bigger clubs than they were in like the Dempsey era. Like, great Dempsey's, but he's playing for Fulham.
Right.
Like, he's crushing it, and you're playing for Fulham versus like McKinney, you're playing for Juve or Gio Reyna or like Pulisic. Like, these guys are playing for big teams. They're competing for like stuff in Europe.
And that changes the culture, right? Because growing up, you're gonna have more televised games for Barcelona, for Juventus, for Chelsea, than for a Fulham or a smaller Stoke City, whatever team. So as an American growing up, you're going to have more exposure to those players being televised on TV, whereas maybe 15, 20 years ago, you would hear about a Dempsey playing in the Premiership, but you would never catch a
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, you'd see the highlights afterwards. Like, well, I want to see more. Like,
Exactly. So that I think that is really gonna carve the way for younger players as soccer is on the rise. I don't really buy into the myth of football dying in America. I think it'll remain the top sport, but I do believe soccer will creep in behind basketball maybe as the third largest sport in America.
yeah, well, that's interesting. Can you compare that to what it's like in Germany or like in Europe? There's other sports available for kids growing up, right?
Right. Yeah. I would say America has a very unique culture around baseball, basketball, and football, whereas European countries are heavily set on soccer, but then they have also emphasis on Olympic sports where
Oh,
most Europeans have tried some sort of skiing competitively. They've tried other things like bobsledding or
yeah,
yeah, so that is, I would say, the main difference that we don't have those other ball sports like basketball, football,
right.
even though they are on the rise. Germany televises all of the NFL games. Germany has a great basketball league. Many other European countries do as well. So those sports are on the rise just because of how influential the United States is, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, as much as they're influencing us, it probably goes the other way too.
100%.
Yeah. Um, what about like how good is Bayern? If we talk about Bayern for a second, like, can they be stopped? Honestly,
Um, no.
right? It's
No.
hard to imagine like a team actually competing with
Yeah.
them right now.
So when we speak about the domestic cups, the Bundesliga, the DFB Pokal, stuff like that, they can't really be stopped. They're kind of like a monopoly in the country. For the UEFA Champions League, I think it's a toss-up. I think it would be little contrived for me to sit here and tell you, oh, we're going to definitely win it again because even if you're the best team, there's takes a lot of luck, a lot of perseverance, a lot of catching that form in the end of your season to actually win. As you know, Liverpool went to the final twice. They lost and then they made it back.
Hmm.
So were they the worst team the first game that they lost in the final? Probably not.
No.
But it's just so much that you have to take into account to win a Champions League. So circling back, I would say Bayern right now has that mindset and they found a good mix of young, old players and also players that know each other, which is, in my opinion, very
Yeah.
underutilized. Whereas you look at a PSG, okay,
No one. It doesn't fit.
it doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit. No, you can have amazing pieces, but if the locker room chemistry doesn't get together and just overall it doesn't fit, it's not going to work.
Yeah. They're just a well-oiled machine, and it looks so natural when they you kind of expect them, and maybe you do as like a Bayern fan, like you expect them to win every game,
Well, that's the
or it's
mentality at
shocking when
Bayern.
they don't really.
The mentality at Bayern, um, I can say firsthand from when I was little and I played in the youth system was if we beat somebody 3-0, we would walk into the locker room as an 11-year-old and our coach would look at us and say that wasn't good enough. You need to beat them 5-6-0.
Wow.
So the overall idea in Germany, the overall sentiment in Germany towards Bayern is that they're arrogant, but it is more of a positive arrogance, whereas they expect to win every time, and if they don't
Mhm.
win every time, it's not good enough. So it kind of sets the bar, you know?
Well, yeah, I think there's also a fine line between confident and cocky. Like you can be confident and humble. It's right on the edge of cockiness.
Yes.
And like cockiness when you see it,
Yes.
or when you're being it. Like
Yes.
you know. Um, but it sounds like Bayern's more confident because they're good and they put in the work rather than just showing up and expecting to, smash teams.
Right. It's like the argument about Cristiano Ronaldo. Everyone says he's arrogant and cocky, but is he really arrogant or cocky, or is he just driven out of his mind and he has that Michael Jordan mindset that he'll do anything in the world to win? And some people confuse it for cockiness, and you can argue that it's cockiness,
Yeah.
but I think, like you mentioned, it's a very fine line.
Yeah, guys like Cristiano, if you put in all that work and it's like in your mind, in your heart even that I've worked harder than anyone else. It's not even close. Like I think naturally you're gonna be like, guys, catch up to me. Step up. What are you guys doing? Like I'm number one. Come on.
Exactly. If you're avoiding the Coca-Cola every time someone's drinking next to you, you're
Yeah.
gonna expect to have better results.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're gonna be James Milner and Cristiano.
Yeah. What Milner, what a beast, huh?
Yeah. Oldest guy on the team, fittest guy on the team. Like that's impressive, just in general.
Considerably most reliable guy too. I mean, they just throw him in at any moment of the game.
Doesn't matter. Any
Uh,
position.
yeah,
Yeah.
this guy steps on the pitch, 85th minute, they get a penalty. Who's taking it? James Milner.
Yeah, freaking Millie will step up. Yeah.
He's touched the ball once.
Yeah.
But that's comes back to my point about a good mix in the team, right? I don't think PSG can substitute um Choupo-Moting in the 85th minute and expect him to take a penalty.
Yeah.
And that comes back to the coach. What kind of locker room environment is he creating? Is he including everyone? Is he keeping everyone in the loop? Is he making people feel like they're part of the team?
Yeah, couple things. I have a theory as to what made Liverpool good because he got me thinking about like a team that fits well together. And I think they've worked, speaking of Liverpool, have worked so well together is like of like your typical starting 11 for the Liverpool guys you think of, at least 6 are national team captains. So they're actually all leaders and they're good enough leaders that they know when to follow and like how to follow. So they know how to lead each other and be led. And
Yeah.
it's clearly that works. And it's probably something that Bayern has, I imagine. Like I don't know who's captains and what, but like they're all leaders. And speaking of a guy that knows probably a lot about the locker room, wasn't Flick the assistant coach before he was the head coach?
Yeah.
Right. So he knows the guys better than had they hired someone from outside Bayern and like, here, take over.
Yeah. He actually was the assistant coach for the national team. So
Oh, so he knows them.
exactly. He knows the whole dressing room because what Bayern Munich is kind of famous at doing is gathering all of the German talent.
Yeah.
That's why they were trying to go after Timo Werner, but they decided to get Leroy Sané. And if you look at their starting 11, I mean, there's about 8 guys that start for Germany as well. So,
Dude, my guy Sula, I'm in on that guy.
oh, he's
He's good.
fantastic.
He's good.
He had a little bit of a rough year because he tore his ACL, right? And he had to sit
Yeah.
out an extensive amount of time. But I mean, as soon as he came from Hoffenheim, when was that, 2 or 3 years ago?
Hmm.
He was practically a no name, only known in Germany, but he just stepped into that position with no fear at all and just
What a
grew.
beast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy to break up Hummels Boateng. I mean, that was a wall for 10 years. That won the World Cup in 2014. I mean, that's a amazing duo, and he broke it up. He got into the lineup. So
Yeah, good for him. That's freaking that's an accomplishment in itself. And then it's okay, now you got to hold down your spot and continue to produce. But yeah.
and the way he did it too was with confidence and
Yeah.
you never had really the doubt that he was gonna crumble, or he didn't have those shaky moments. He kind of stepped into it like very natural and just went with it.
Yep. Hey, he's confident, not cocky.
Yeah,
You know?
he is a very good player. I think Germany is lacking that second defender right now. Jogi Löw made the decision, not to keep some of the veteran players like Thomas Müller and Hummels, Boateng,
Yep.
which is why they're suffering a bit now. And you can argue it was a wrong choice to do that, but you can also argue that
It's
you
probably
need to
time.
have, yeah, exactly.
You know?
But German society in general is very critical. So obviously, when Germany gets smacked 6-0 against Spain, everyone's going to point fingers and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, where's Hummels? Where's Boateng? Where's Müller?" But I think that is kind of a cop out. You need to give the team time and just see what happens.
Yeah. And who knows? They could bounce back and win the Euros this year. Like
For
who
sure.
knows?
For sure. I mean, when Spain, I'm sure you remember, Spain won the World Cup when
2010?
2010, right? And then the following Euros, they lost in the group stage. They didn't make it out the group stage.
Yeah.
Same deal with Germany.
It's you're gonna go through cycles like you're rebuilding and or you have a team in their prime, like which was probably Germany in the couple World Cups ago, and now you gotta cycle it back again. It'll come back around
Yeah, and
if you're doing it right, like or if you're just reactionary, you fire the coach and like bench players, and you're gonna lose it pretty quick.
yeah, and you gotta always look for players that are never satisfied, that are still hungry. That's the beauty of, seeing Messi and Ronaldo play. We got to witness two guys that basically won the Ballon d'Or since 2008. I mean, I don't think that will ever happen again in our lifetime. That's a 12-year span.
Yeah, they just had a monopoly on the best player in the world. So you take it. You take it. You
No,
take
you take
it.
it. Nah.
Right?
Ronaldo's
And,
like, okay, I want it.
yeah. And then Lewandowski comes in, he's like, guys, just give it to me. For 1 year, give it to me.
He deserves it. You can argue when Modric won, you remember it was at 2017 or something like that, and Ronaldo, Messi didn't even show up to the award ceremony. You can, yeah, you can argue that he didn't really deserve it, but this year, I mean, if Robert Lewandowski didn't deserve the best player in Europe, I don't know who would have.
No, it'd be yeah. The team that you gotta give credit for the team that wins stuff too. And look at their best player or their most influential player. So I think winning has to count for something. And clearly Bayern did a lot of that. So yeah, he should
Yeah,
have won it.
Bayern crushed it this year.
It
It's
did.
kind of the LeBron effect, right? If LeBron wins another championship this year, are they going to say, "Ah, he won two COVID rings"? They're going to argue the same with Bayern. If Bayern has another successful year, they're going to say, "Oh, well, Bayern won two COVID championships." But in the end of the day, it might actually be more difficult to win a championship during COVID because you don't have that extra push from the crowd. You don't have that extra
Yeah.
push from the stands and stuff like that. So you got to give credit where credit's due.
Oh, 100% agree. They should count for more. Rather like asterisk it, but because it's harder, not because
Exactly. No, I completely agree.
yeah. Thinking about youth soccer again for a second, how does it differ between what you played in Germany and when you came over here and played soccer in the States? Like, how did like the systems even compare?
I think fast forwarding to today, it's almost unrecognizable um, to where it was when I moved here. Crazy to say, it was like 14 years ago, 15 years ago.
The
Um,
U.S. youth soccer?
yeah, it's unrecognizable.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
know. Yeah.
yeah, when I first moved here, we had Region One and ODP was slowly fading away, but everyone remembers the ODP days and all that stuff Freddie do.
Yeah.
And then fast forwarding, the academies got stronger and stronger, and the smaller clubs started losing out to all their best players. Um, and then that grew into players deciding not to go to college. Some players decided to go the academy route and then go straight pro as a
Hmm.
homegrown.
Yep.
And you can see a lot of teams in the MLS. they made great efforts to actually grow those homegrown players. And you see some of those players now going on to play overseas. One example, just a random example that I've noticed recently, a player for the Philadelphia Union, I think his name's Aronson, very small guy, curly head
Yeah.
guy.
Yep.
You would never expect him to be much, but he's just absolute lightning on the
Yeah, he
field.
lights it
And
up. Yeah.
yeah, and those players go on to play in Europe, and it's very important that they get that playing time early. Alfonso Davies, great example. People forget that he did spend a season with Vancouver Whitecaps. DeAndre Edlin played in MLS. A lot of players do come out of MLS. They just have to kind of make that decision to leave in time, you know?
Yeah. It sounds like, and it seems like at least like the system now that it's so like almost specialized that, with all the academies, does that look more like it does in Europe with the top teams? I would imagine.
100%. Um, when I was going to school at LaSalle in Philadelphia, I had the opportunity to train with the Philadelphia Union a bunch of times, and I got to know one of the owners pretty well. And he basically explained how he traveled to Germany and stayed at several youth teams' facilities and kind of learned from them, and then brought the system over back to America. Whereas it's almost 100% the same as when I was growing up, where I was going to a regular school, but I was, instead of being released and going home at 2 o'clock, I didn't go home until 5 o'clock. Okay, so what does that mean? Why am I staying till
Yeah.
5 o'clock? That means I'm going to school, regular time, 8, 9 a.m., and I study just like anybody else until 12. But then after lunch, we don't go back to school, we go and train. So we would go to the Bayern Munich facility, whereas here now the academies have it set up that they go to the Philadelphia Union Academy, the
Yeah.
LA Galaxy, they train there and then go back to school. So they have a little bit of a longer day, but it's getting you prepared at such a young age to have that day in, day out grind of working on your craft and having that goal as a professional in sight. Whereas when we were growing up, we had high school soccer and club soccer, but you don't really have that goal of becoming a professional player in
Yeah.
such close proximity as it is today.
Yeah. If you don't see it every day, then it's hard. You kind of lose track of why you're doing it. At least maybe that end goal, you kind of lose sight of it. So it would make sense that if youth teams and kids are training alongside or going to like these first team facilities or something that's at least connected with the bigger team, like the senior team. I mean, that's so powerful.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I'm sure you remember going to Disney and all those tournaments
Yeah.
that
Oh,
were
yeah.
just made you play a little bit better. It made you try a little bit harder. It was a little bit more exciting when you knew, oh, this team from California, they're like top 25.
Yeah.
Fast forwarding again, these kids now are wearing MLS jerseys. They are going to showcases with MLS coaches. They're
Yeah.
playing against other academy teams. So, if I'm being honest, there's almost no difference anymore between the American system and the European system. The Americans have really caught up, and I think you can really see it now.
Well, yeah. And then it goes back to that same so called golden generation of US guys now. That's where they started, Christian Pulisic for PA Classics or, like that's a popular story. But all these guys have academy roots and maybe they leave to Europe now instead of, going to college. Like that's their next step. But they have their roots in like our system, which is pretty special.
Yeah, so you as being a college coach yourself, what would you say is the future for college soccer in general? What do you think is going to be the next 10 years and how is it going to look?
Well, I think it has a role to play because not everyone develops at the same time. I mean, you can just as easily pick out some cool stories of guys that went to college, and that's the kind of the development time they needed to then be able to make an impact in, say, the MLS or even Europe. Like if there's a second move, so I think it plays a role. it's just so there's such a disparity. Maybe because there's just a lot of colleges, and there really is a place for everyone to play if they want to play, a college sport or specifically college soccer. It's like keeping the competition level high enough so you don't like water down the competition for the guys that are at like the upper end, like say the top Division 1 schools. And maybe you can talk more about like the D1, what it looks like. But from the outside looking in, it's like, yeah, those top 25, top 50 schools, like they're legit. But then there's the next 150. And are those guys going to Europe afterwards? Yeah, some. If there was somehow less schools or less D1 schools, maybe it's just a separate subdivision, kind of like they do for football. So
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. Personally, I don't think I would have ever had a chance of getting to play any sort of professional soccer if it wasn't for college. When I was a senior in high school, I was just not ready at all. Physically, mentally, I was not there. And in Europe, they basically write you off by age 16, 17. So
yeah.
I think the American system does allow for players to develop further in their life. Because let's say you're not the best player at 16, or you maybe don't have the physical attributes, or you have all the attributes but you don't have the mental attributes. Going to college and living by yourself and growing up
Oh yeah.
will really help you, whereas in Europe, you kind of have to be a grown up with 14, 15, 16 if you really want to make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine trying to, adjust and grow like you do in college and figure things out like for yourself, but try to do that as a new professional player with real money on the line and like a contract, living in a new country. I don't speak the language. What do I do? Like I'm playing with guys that are 30, not just 23 and 22 years old. So yeah, that's got to be a tough transition for some. So yeah, I think college has its place for sure.
Yeah, I don't think college is going anywhere. Also, circling back on just the American system,
Yeah.
America loves college sports. College is not going anywhere. COVID might have put a little break on the system, but college is going to come back. Is it going to come back in the same shape or form? I mean, I think we're going to see, especially like college football, there's so much money on the line that some players are going to be compensated for it. But in our realm, the soccer realm, we probably won't see anything like that just because the demand for it is just not there. But, college basketball and college football, there's real revenue coming into these schools.
Yeah, and despite the lack of revenue for soccer, there's like you said, there's really good support from the student body of each school, but like even outside, I mean, look how big the University of Maryland games get and like the fanatic support they get. Like that's legit.
Yeah,
It's kind of like it almost seems similar to like a USL support
for
and
sure.
like
Yeah.
so there's some momentum there, and it's again it's an important thing in the greater soccer landscape of the US.
Shout out to Zach Steffen. Did you see he started for
Yeah.
Man City the other day? Former
Yeah, got his
Maryland goalkeeper.
Premier League debut. That was pretty sweet.
That was sweet to see him start and Pulisic start on the other field. You're like, wait, these guys are starting for Man City and Chelsea? That's pretty special.
Yeah, I'm sure they played against each other. PA Classics or Delco or something, like
Right, both Pennsylvania guys. It's
yep.
pretty it speaks a lot for the Pennsylvania soccer area.
Yeah.
Everyone forgets about Pennsylvania, but I would say Pennsylvania is up there for bringing the most players in the pros. Pennsylvania is a great soccer hub for sure.
Yeah, you know a little bit about PA,
Yeah, for sure.
so you went to LaSalle, like you said. I can speak from like a Division 3 soccer player's perspective and being a Division 3 coach for the past however many years since I graduated. But like, what's it like being a Division 1 college soccer player? Like, what's not necessarily a day in the life, but like, what are the time demands? And did that prepare you for what you did after college?
Yeah, for sure. I think any student athlete has to learn how to prioritize their time. Um, I think the main difference between Division 1 and Division 3 is that there is a higher, how do I put this, a higher level of talent that takes soccer more serious. So if you're in Division 3, it doesn't mean that you're worse player than somebody on Division 1, but it just means that some of those players on Division 1 are going to take, the workouts more serious. They're going to take
More serious
everything.
than their school.
Yeah, I would say that, on a roster on a Division 3 team, maybe the bottom half of the roster is kind of just playing for fun and, staying in shape, stuff like that. Whereas the bottom half of the Division 1 roster is still taking it pretty serious. Um, but other than that, I think that there's a lot of talent in Division 3 that could easily be playing Division 1 soccer. Um, I would say only the top half of that roster in the Division 1 team is really significantly better than, the bottom half. So I think, like you said, the
Gotcha.
disparity in college soccer, there's about 30, 40 teams that are so much better than everyone else. And then the rest of the teams are kind of average, and they have a couple guys on the teams that should be probably playing for a larger university, but it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why it's very difficult to also sometimes watch a college soccer game. You have a team that's really trying to move the ball, kick the ball around, and another team that's more driven by athleticism and defending and trying to get a result. So, but yeah, like you're circling back to your question, I kind of went in a tangent there.
Yeah.
Uh, Everyday life of a Division 1 athlete, wake up, go to class, go to study hall, eat, lift, go to practice, study, hang out with your friends, go to sleep.
Yeah.
So it's very structured. And I think that prepares you just for, the work life where most of us are going to end up in the rest of our careers, whether it's in soccer, not in soccer.
Yes.
It's just getting focused and being able to manage that workload of every day doing your task and staying on top of it. So, yeah.
With that being said, there's definitely a lot of similarities. It sounds like from Division 1 to Division 3, like as far as what an athlete's life looks like. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's the same. Um, just some Division 1 schools, like we mentioned, they take it very serious and it's very demanding.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, like a Maryland, I know their demands are much higher than, smaller schools like LaSalle that I went to.
Yeah.
And I think it can also make or break a player. Personally, it was a blessing in disguise that I did not go to a large school because I was always the player that needed some instant gratification. I was not okay with being on the bench.
Right.
I needed to play right away. And realistically, I was not going to play right away. I was not ready to
Yep.
play right away at a big school. So I think that you have to be really honest with yourself, what you want out of the college soccer experience. And there's a lot of great Division 3 schools out there. I mean, Johns Hopkins here in Baltimore, where we grew up, one of the best Division 3 programs in the country. And I think that's a great option. I think some Division 3 schools are better options than Division 1 schools, especially if you're looking for the balance of academics and athletics. So,
Yeah. Big time. Yeah, it's a big time point. And that's a big time draw for, a coach's perspective to a Division 3 school. Like, hey, like you can be really serious. You can be equally as serious about your soccer and your academics and whatever else you want to do. If there's a club or like something you like to lead, away from soccer, like you can do it all, and we encourage you to do it all. Whereas I know like that top few in Division 1, like you're going to be a soccer player,
yeah.
and you know, so it's that balance for sure. It's probably a big difference.
Yeah. I think that we were very fortunate to be able to experience that in college. And I think it's going to mold us for the rest of our lives, and we'll have friends and connections the rest of our lives in the soccer world that it's kind of like joining a fraternity, right? It's
100%. It's your team is your frat.
exactly.
Yeah, but you don't have to pay to get in it.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
What was the highlight of your college soccer career at LaSalle? I know you had a good senior year, like personally, but what might be like one highlight?
um yeah, so individually, definitely my senior year, I won a bunch of awards. I got named Atlantic 10 Offensive Player of the Year. I was top 5 in almost every category in the country, so patting myself on the back a little bit more.
Hell yeah.
But looking more at team perspective, my favorite year was my sophomore year. We made it pretty far in the Atlantic 10 tournament, and we beat Temple, which, as you know, Philly,
Oh, that's a
big
good
rivalry,
derby.
big derby, and then we lost the next game. But those are the moments that you won't forget. Um, the the bus rides after winning that playoff game, how cold it was, how your coaches, what they said in the locker room. Those are the moments that you will never forget. And I would definitely say that was probably my favorite moment in college was playing in the A10 championships in St. Louis, which has a long history of being a great soccer program. Um,
Yep.
and they've also quite a few players actually came out of St. Louis and played in the pros. Um, there's a guy named Vedad Ibisevic, which will probably not say much to most people,
Yeah.
but he plays for Hertha BSC in the Bundesliga for
Hmm.
Berlin, and he played for St. Louis. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Then Tim Ream went to Rhode Island and he played in the Premiership. I
He's
mean,
on Fulham. Yeah.
yeah, there are people that do make it from college soccer, which is bizarre. I mean, the fact that Christian Pulisic made it from Hershey, Pennsylvania to walk into the Santiago Bernabeu when he was 18 years old still doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
But it's an incredible story, you know?
It is. It kind of proves to you like, wow, like you can do it.
Exactly.
What were you thinking as you're wrapping up your college career? Was there an internal debate like, am I going to hang up the boots or am I going to try to play for as long as I can at the highest level I can? What was the thought process?
I think I made a conscious decision early on around my sophomore year of college to really pursue it. That's when I started getting involved in the PDL, which I'm sure you're
Yeah.
familiar with, which is now considered, I guess, the fourth tier of soccer, following, MLS and then the second tier with USL Championship, USL One, and then PDL, which is still amateur, but it's pretty serious for college athletes. So I was fortunate enough to play for two of the best PDL teams in the country. One was Reading United, a team in Reading, Pennsylvania, and another Ocean City, New Jersey, Ocean City Nor'easters. And really there, I was able to, play against other college athletes that were at the highest level and really go a step further in developing my skills and just the fortitude of, okay, this is really what I want to try to pursue after college. So I would say, yeah, I definitely made a conscious decision after my freshman year that I was gonna, try to see where I could take it, and it led me to having a trial with the LA Galaxy, which didn't work out, but led to a great opportunity over in Denmark with one of my buddies, Johnny Dozel, who played for UPenn, another
Uh-huh.
Philly school. Shout out UPenn. And played over in Denmark, came back over the States, and then started my career really in the USL, all the way in the bottom, just taking $100 contracts and then working my way up. So
Yes.
yeah, I would say for anyone that really wants to pursue it, you have to know early enough that that's what you want to do and go for it because there's so much opportunity now in America with the sport still growing that realistically, if you try really hard and you don't let anyone tell you, you can definitely become a professional athlete in soccer in America. I think so.
Yeah. Thinking about like young kids now, and what you were doing as a young kid, were you playing other sports or did you specialize with soccer only early on?
Yeah, so in Germany, obviously, I was playing a lot of soccer. But being half American, my dad always brought me on the military base, and I did grow up playing basketball, baseball, all that good stuff.
Yeah,
But that's also one of the main differences between the American culture and the German culture or European culture in general is that European culture, you kind of focus on one sport and stick with it, whereas in America, we have all these amazing athletes that play in the NFL, but then you find out, oh, he could have played in the NBA as well.
sure.
They play, Allen Iverson and all those stories of those athletes. Whereas in Germany, it's mostly you just stick with one sport. So for me, it was always soccer.
Right.
I played a little bit of tennis, but really early they told me like, hey, you just got to stick with soccer.
Stay with soccer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were fine with that. Oh,
Ah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, I can stick with soccer. Okay, that
Well,
sounds
I
good.
didn't want to play that anyway,
I
so
didn't want to do that anyway, so it works out.
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, so I'm like that's the main difference I would say is you kind of stick with one sport, whereas in the United States you have so many options and it's encouraged. I mean, how many times have you met somebody and they said, "Oh, I played soccer," and you're like, "Oh, you played
Yeah.
soccer?"
Yeah, we
Like
all did when we were
every
four. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah. Oh my God. I
exactly.
hear that all the time.
Yeah,
And you did dig just a little deeper. You're like, oh,
yeah.
really? Tell
Oh,
me about it.
really?
Like,
Yeah, tell me about it.
well, I was a sweeper.
My parents dropped me off at this
Yeah.
summer camp one time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
Great times.
Yeah. Were there any, or could you pick up on any differentiators thinking about the pros now between maybe some of the top guys you played with or played against that like made it? Maybe they made a next step in their career after that, and the guys that I don't know, they just didn't, or they were at the same club for in the USL for 10 years. I'm sure you've seen those guys. Like, what's the
Yeah,
differentiator? Because I'm sure everyone's trying to make it and work their way up the pyramid and the levels.
yeah. I would say, of course, there's luck, but I also think you create a lot of your own luck. Most of the guys that I saw go on to make real careers never gave up. Everyone was always, as cliche as it sounds, everyone is told at some point that they're not good enough. There's some point in your career, someone's going to tell you you're not good enough or you're not going to make this team. And the main differentiator is that the people who are still playing or made it to a very high level of playing, they never took no for an answer, no matter what. And they saw that no as one step closer to a yes. And I think it's very easy to say people were fortunate enough to make it to this level or not. But out of my own experience, I don't know anybody that was just fortunate enough or lucky to just get where they are now. They all had to go through some sort of challenge over challenge over challenge, and they knew deep down that that'll pass too, and they'll keep going. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's one of the main things I would say.
I mean, that's a great point. Like having that resilience and like we talked about, just thinking back to the year of 2020, like it sucked, but people are thriving now because they learned from that experience. You probably learn more from the no's and like the setbacks than you do from the easy wins and like the green lights that you just wave through to the first team. Like, what? I didn't really earn that.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I think that you have to build some sort of system in your mind where you know that these setbacks are going to come and using those setbacks to boost yourself even further. We're all going to get disappointed. We're all going to get discouraged. But being able to develop that muscle in your mind to know ahead of time that that's going to come and never be satisfied. Because if you work hard enough, you're going to get success. But the people at the highest level, they're not happy with success. They want to keep going, whether it's in business, Joe Rogan throwing 90-pound kettlebells around. I mean, you can't be satisfied. And you usually see people who are satisfied. How many players did we play with that were great in high school, but they never played after high school?
Yeah.
How many players did I play against in college that were phenomenal that never played after college?
Yeah.
A lot of them more talented than people who played in the pros, but they just didn't have that fortitude and they weren't willing to, you know, take 10 no's and get the 11th yes, you know?
Yeah, it's that grit, you know? Yeah, you can take no's all day and be discouraged, but after each no, if you're going back to the drawing board and reflecting and saying, "Oh, it's probably because I wasn't quite good enough at this," and you dedicate yourself to working on that skill set, you know, for the next 6 months until the next trial, like that's what's going to do it.
Yeah. Would you say from a college coaching perspective, when you're recruiting athletes, you're obviously looking for talent, but when you're getting to know these athletes, I would imagine that's a huge indicator of why you'd want to recruit a kid is, hey, what is this kid made of? Is he gonna sink his nose in the ground and give up after, you know, one hard training session or one time being benched? Or is this a guy that's gonna be, you know, very positive and he might not have all the talent in the world, but he's gonna dig deep, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and also, how often are you going to get the recruit the finished product? Maybe Maryland is right, but
Right.
for 1,000 other schools, you're going to hopefully work with kids that are driven to improve and like, yeah, they should improve over their 4 years under your coaching, like in a good environment. I don't know. They need that drive, that determination. I don't know, they need a growth mindset. So when things don't go their way, like we said, they're gonna reflect on something and put in hopefully double their effort and get after it there. But yeah, I mean, we see that all the time. It's probably more important as far as assessing their character. Playing is important, their soccer skill. Like that opens the door for them, I guess. And then yeah, how is their character? Are they gonna do well in our school that has rigorous academics? How do they deal with adversity, really? So it's a lot of reference checks and talking to their coaches and maybe mom and dad when you get to meet them in the process.
It's a very neat process to be a part of, isn't it? It's like it's an interesting cut in somebody's life. You're meeting somebody who's really becoming an adult, but is still a kid, and they're
Yeah.
stepping into this unknown, right? So that's a very, and then you see them grow in those 4 years. That must be really rewarding.
Oh yeah, you see them come in as babies and they leave as actual grown men, like with real jobs that are going out in the world. That's crazy.
Yeah, that
And
is
and
crazy.
you see it's crazy when you look back in hindsight and be like, oh yeah, I remember I recruited that guy and look at him now. But you actually see it every day in training or like every say individual meeting. Oh, they're sitting a little more upright today and they're holding eye contact way more than they did like their freshman year. It's like it is a fun process. You're treating it like a sort of like a job interview. If we're going to recruit you to be a part of our organization, it's kind of crazy doing that with 17-year-olds. We're expecting a lot of them. So recruiting is interesting. Some put on their best face and then they show up like, what the hell were we thinking?
Right, 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 right.
So that's why you do your due diligence ahead of time.
Yeah, I remember it being a really strange process getting recruited. I don't know if you can speak on this, but you know, there's so many rules that you can't contact the person directly and this and that. And in the end of the day, you're just a kid and you just want to have what's best for you and you want to play soccer. And it's a it's an interesting process that I think a lot of coaches do a really good and lot of coaches do a really bad job of helping these kids decide where to go. Because some people, you know, mislead them and say, hey, you can play here. And then they get there and they never play. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. What would you say either turned you on to a coach or turned you off? Like, were you looking for just honesty or, like what stood out when a coach was a good recruiter?
Yeah. So number one for me always was interest. If somebody had a lot of interest and he kept following up with me, kept asking how I'm doing, kept trying to give updates, that gave me a sense of that this person actually cares. He wouldn't be following up with me nonstop and trying to figure out where I am in the process if he
Yeah.
wasn't genuinely interested. Of course, you're going to get flashed by the big name schools and the successful programs, but And the end of the day, everyone wants to be felt like they're wanted, you know? So I would say the desire for coaches to reach out, that's the number one thing that always every student athlete should look for, because you don't want to just be a number. You can be another number, but you want to be somewhere where you know that you're wanted, that they're looking forward to, that in the locker room they're talking about, hey, did you remember that kid at that showcase? He's really special. We should give him a call, and you keep calling him. That's what you really want. You don't want somebody saying, hey, we have this much scholarship money left for you. What do you think? We can put you on the roster.
Yeah. What 17-year-old thinks like that?
And then you have a little bit of influence by your parents. They say, hey, you should do this or that. And then it's a very, very interesting process in that stage of your life, because it's really determining so much of your future, right? What education you're getting, because let's face it, 99% of student athletes are not going to make that sport into a profession. So what type of education are you getting? What kind of people skills are you getting? Which brings me to the point, when you meet your coach, what type of person is he? What kind of values does he have? Is he asking about your family? Is he only worried about another championship? I can speak on myself. I had an amazing college coach, Patrick Farrell. He was there for 30 some years. And I mean, he had a graduation rate of like 95%. Almost everybody that went to play soccer for him graduated. And I mean, that's something that you should really consider as being the number one thing. What character does your
True.
coach have? And it might take a couple visits, but I think you can testify that if somebody's interested in you, they're willing to, have you on campus a couple times.
Yeah, I've seen from experience looking around at maybe why recruits get turned off by other schools. It's like when a coach turns the pressure on. As much as college coaches were recruiting prospective players, the players are also, you're kind of shopping around and looking for like, what's my best fit. So I don't think it really ever works, or is healthy to put the pressure on, a recruit to make a decision that, like you said, is a huge decision for the family. It's potentially $100,000 decision or more, probably more these days. So
Right.
it's, yeah, like what you need to gauge the fit from both sides.
Yeah.
And you kind of, when right?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I knew right away after visiting my school, Salle, that that was a good fit for me, and that I wanted to do that. And was I homesick the first year? Of course I was homesick. I was a kid, and you get thrown into this competitive environment, and that's kind of when you're molded. That's when I became like a man, when I realized, hey, I'm not a kid no more. I'm living on my own. I'm doing all these school activities, all these physical activities, and you're growing. And it's such a special moment in your life that you can't compare to anything in Europe. Europe does not have this structure where athletics is mixed with your academics. It's either purely academics or purely athletics. And I think that's something that America gets really right.
Yeah, they might need to figure out a way to make it more affordable. But I agree on the whole that, like, what a cool learning experience where you're in this 4-year bubble
Bubble. Yeah,
where you can try different things. Like, it has consequences, but not real world consequences yet. So it's a good time to make mistakes and learn from them, and try something else, or like,
exactly.
you
Change
know
your major.
change your major, or just
Yeah.
make your own up, make your own major up. Like, it's wild from a student perspective, certainly like an athlete's perspective. It's a cool place. Is it for everyone? Probably not,
Probably
but
not. No.
and that's okay too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you loved it so much you stuck with it. Look at you, you're still coaching.
Yeah. I haven't left college in
Yeah, still in
in
college.
10 years.
Hey, that's great. I'm really happy to see you do well, man. I mean, having a friend that's still coaching is awesome. I really look forward to these conversations because that's something that I always kind of consider for myself as well. But for whatever reasons, it just didn't fall into my lap. But I think it's awesome what you're doing out there. And I think there's no doubt that you have a lot of passion for it. And passion is what's going to excel you and drive you and get you to, do a little bit more extra effort to maybe pull a kid aside and give them a little bit more encouragement. So I think that's great what you're doing out there, and you're obviously crushing it.
Yeah, thanks, man. And honestly, it's fun because it's so easy to think back on our soccer careers, like with hindsight, and being like, wow, I loved that coach, Coach Al, because he
Exactly.
did
Yeah.
this, right? He
Yeah.
was good with the relationships. So now, like, I have the opportunity to be like, all right, I'm gonna take a little bit of that and I'm gonna try that out and like see how that works for me. And like maybe I do it in my own way, like of creating relationships with a player, or like you take the best pieces of your favorite coaches and you kind of make it your own.
It's in some sense like becoming a parent, right? It's like parenthood. When you become a parent, right, you try to emulate what your parents did and what you thought was great and kind of mix in your own. And I think that's exactly with coaching the same. Every coach that I had was somewhat of a father figure, whether it was a good or bad one. And like you said, you kind of take a little bit of something and put in your own flavor, and you're really changing people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. At a point in their lives when they're 18 to 22 years old, they're still trying to figure out, like a direction to aim their life. And you can be that,
The
not necessarily
mentor.
guidance, but yeah, a mentor along their way to
Yeah.
help figure out their own direction.
Yeah, and you're gonna be there for 4 years, and that's a very critical time, and it's like, how special is that you get to be there in that time? Like when you were in school, and I can talk on it, when I was in school, you don't really realize it, right? But now that we're out of school and you can reflect on it, you're like, wow, like these guys, there's little things that I look back on, oh, he said that to me then, or he did this to me then that, could have really changed how, my college career would have went, but he helped me out a lot, and that changed everything.
And you also get to think back on, man, like if I was in his shoes, like I would have said this to me, or
Exactly.
like, or like,
Yeah.
why did he say that?
Yeah.
That threw me off.
Yeah.
So you,
You should have
so
kicked me out for that one.
you're like, how did you not know I was in trouble? Like,
Yeah.
I got away with, like whatever.
Right.
So yeah, you kind of, yeah, you just try to pass on the good experiences, really. So it's been a lot of fun.
Hey, we really need to go to Anfield one day. I know that like sounds kind of like we're getting old and that
That's
old
the
jazz,
dream.
but we gotta go. We just gotta go.
Yeah, that's the dream. Can we go on a European
Yes.
soccer tour?
Yes, we're gonna go Anfield, and then I need to see Signal Iduna Park, Borussia Dortmund Stadium.
The yellow wall.
I have to see it. I have to see it. And then maybe we'll hit like a Stoke on a rainy night, something like
Wayne
that.
Wednesday and Stoke. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. You got to get the full experience.
Oh yeah. I would love to go to those big ones for sure. But also you gotta hit like a League Two, like
Right.
Brentford, or like,
Brentford.
yeah, go to like a lower league team and see the real
See a
support.
young Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, see the guys on loan at
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
At Wimbledon. Like
Right.
there
Like
we go.
he's on Chelsea, but he's been on this team for like 3 years.
Yeah, this is half the team on Chelsea loaned out to the Netherlands.
Right? Yeah, no, I think that a lot of us are going to put more emphasis on experiences over possessions after this is over. Um,
Yeah,
so I'm excited for the future, honestly.
me too, man. Me too.
I'm just trying to stay focused, stay happy, and keep crushing it.
Keep crushing. That's all we can do, man.
That's all we can do. Yep.
All we can
Stay
do.
positive. Yep.
So,
Exactly.
bye, man.
Perfect. Yo, good
Cool.
seeing you, Brad.
You too, man. I'll talk to you later, dude.
I'll talk to you later, man.
Big love. Peace.